Picture the scene. You're lost in the forest, split up from your group, the trees foreboding, and ever so similar, the humidity choking, clawing at your throat. Your eyes scan the thick foliage, a shadow, maybe a presence, a little flittering of movement. You can't be sure. It could be the days that you're in, the fear of never being found again. You step forward once more and a branch breaks underfoot. You pause just a moment. You notice then in horror, silence has descended around you. You feel a presence. You can't see anything, but somehow you know it's there. You carefully creep forward,
Quiet.
hearing nothing. You get a feeling, you turn around, and empty space greets you. But you're sure now, the hairs on the back of your neck standing on end, the fear bubbling up inside you like a geyser. You start to run, you start to sprint, flailing through the undergrowth, crashing into the trees. You turn around, taking a moment to look and... Oh yes, my fellow hunters, meet Nargacuga, my probably joint second favourite monster and the flagship of Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, the first Monster Hunter game that I crested that glorious 1,000-hour mark. This, well, I guess panther, hawk, dragon is simply a marvel to behold. In fact, one of the few monsters that has a human form. Come on, Alright, so, Nargacuga then is technically a flying wyvern, though he takes the more grounded frame of Tigrex, where the front wings, well, they've evolved less for flying and more for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, those wing blades gonna slice on right through you. So, to the nitty-gritty then, Nargacuga is an apex predator, and a finely honed one at that, perfect in its natural environment, and entirely adapted to dominate it, able to move almost silently through the undergrowth, not disturbing nary a rock, an ambush predator in the truest of sense, relying on getting as close as possible, waiting, stalking, preparing for the right moment, and then before its prey even knows what's hit it, boom! It has landed upon it, claws rending the size of machetes lining each of its limbs. Its mouth chomps down, a sharp serrated beak for rending and tearing, a row of teeth longer than your hand waiting within, gripping down on the neck of the poor victim, throat torn and bleeding out. But do not let its hunting tactics fool you. It is more than capable at a straight-up brawl, because it is powerful, but more than that, it is quick, ridiculously quick and agile to boot. One of the most athletic monsters, well, to exist, especially on its home turf. A Rathalos flying above a forest would still fail to get to the other side of it before a Nargacuga on the ground. They are able to flow through dense foliage like, well, water. And essentially, to put their speed in context, you kind of have this going on.
He doesn't look so fast to me.
So yeah, when you try and keep up with one in combat, it's not easy. Their powerful hind legs give them incredible jumping ability, able to leap over 100 feet in the air, but do more controlled, faster bursts on the ground to flank enemies, get behind them, and, well, the mouth, while able to quite effortlessly rend and tear, is his really weakest asset. Next in line are his bladed wings. Adapted, as I said, to become more leg-like, the claws on the end able to get him up a tree in much the same way a tiger can. And they in fact like to spend their time when not hunting and prowling and looking for mischief, actually resting and sleeping at the tops of the highest ones they can find. It gives them safety, especially when they're vulnerable and feeling a little bit dozy, protecting them from any hunter who feels they might have a little cheeky go while the creature is essentially defenseless. In fact, a lot of the time it is quite literally impossible for hunters to sneak up on a Nargacuga due to where it likes to call its home. The rest of the time, the guild very much advises simply waiting and preparing for the Naga to come to you. Trying to flush one out of the forest is likely to get you a claw in the back. Very much a needle haystack situation, but the needle is in camo mode and is capable of biting your face off. So yeah, stealth, speed, power. That is the Naga's triumvirate of success. The arms themselves then, the wings, have become more akin to blades. They still let him glide, but there isn't any flying happening. The edges are serrated, honed like an actual sword, and he can use them to ridiculous cutting effect. Rock is no problem, flesh evidently less so, your armor a mere bump in the road for its deadly arc. He will attempt to carve his enemies in twain, given a moment's opportunity. But even these impeccable examples of natural weaponry pale in comparison to what Nargacuga got going on in the back. Oh yeah, his tail is a thick trunk of muscle, much like a snake's body. It is dexterous, it is prehensile, able to aid the creature in climbing, grasping, and general slaughter. It will occasionally slam it against the ground, causing powerful thumps and shakes and quakes as a warning sign for anything getting just a little bit too close. The any closer and I'ma separate the top half of your body from the bottom display. But outside of the acrobatic feats where it can jump in the air, somersault, slam it down into the earth, crushing ground and hunter beneath, it has its own hidden weapon. When angered, when the adrenaline is flowing, when the blood is pumping, well, specially designed edged scales will start to erect and cover his tail like a veritable pine cone of doom. These spikes then give him an extra little bit of an edge. Essentially, imagine going from a mace to a spiked mace. Yep, that's what you're here for. Top quality descriptions of your favourite monsters. Oh, Christ. This then evidently gives it a little bit of a bump in offensive prowess. It comes at the cost that when he slams into the ground and misses, he will anchor himself there for a moment, having to wrench his tail free, but the benefits are worth it. Not only does it add savage cutting power to his already potent strikes, able to smash through tree trunks with effortless ease, he can also freely detach these with a whipping motion of the tail, sending what is essentially a fan of knives hurtling at the hunter. And on top of all of that, it is stretchy. Able to nearly double in length with the right momentum, it has deceptive reach and has caught many a foe off guard. So that is how a Nargacuga do the kill. Now, for once, this is actually quite a calm and calculated creature. They will defend their territory if they find themselves, next to another monster or hunter, then yeah, it's fuck you, fight me, but they won't seek it out. They don't patrol with a bloodthirst. They're not howling with pure bloodlust as they desperately try and kill all the things, like a lot of monsters tend to do. It's quite a smart animal. It picks its battles, it chooses the conflicts, it engages when it is holding all the cards. That said, though, they do enjoy the fighting once it begins. They thrive on it. They lose themselves in the thrill of glorious battle. If a Nargacuga could smile, it would be grinning ear to ear when forced to bring its full arsenal to bear. Yep, Nargacuga really likes to ask Master if it's okay to go all out just this once. And that said, when it does lose itself, when the blood flows, when the smell is too intoxicating, when the enrage happens, Well, you really know about it. The blood flowing heats up, and from behind its eyes has an almost iridescent quality, glowing through in crimson red, a blood moon twins, peering at you from the gloom, a ghostly trail of ruby essence. And this is when you really don't want to fight it. It gets faster, more aggressive, it sinks more into its battle trance, berserker-like in nature, mind fleeting, as it exerts itself beyond what should be possible to put you down. This is why, while enraged, it can fall for pit traps, and while calm, it very much glides over them with its soft, stealthy paws. And as we all know, any monster with a special pit trap interaction, yeah, serious business. Nargacuga tend to very much exhaust themselves into an almost vulnerable submissive state after a good bit of I'm gonna f***ing kill you! Nargacuga's less obvious biology then is equally fascinating. One of the very few larger monsters that don't have a thick, hard shell, it simply has scales and fur. This gives it a much lighter frame, letting it achieve that legendary speed and agility in its natural forest home. It's found in multiple forests, from the thick tropical jungle all the way to a more normal wood that you might find towards your backyard, and it's even spent time in the misty peaks along with Zenogre and Mitsune, who it holds a healthy rivalry with. In terms of its place in the larger power, it still of course gets decimated by the Elder Dragons, but it could fairly comfortably take a Rathalos, and it can have quite a little pop at really any of the other apexes that you might care to mention. It's simply very good at what it does, Brachydios level at actually being a savant in combat. But more than that then, the hair that is on it is incredibly bristly thick, it hurts to touch, it scales like sandpaper. If sandpaper cut your fingers off, you don't want to carelessly touch them. They live in tight familial units with a few little cubs and generally a hunting parent and a nest guarding one. Yeah, who's a little kill monster? Yeah, who's gonna be a little murder machine? Yes, you are! Yes, you are! And their hearing, then, is phenomenal. You know how a shark, a great white, one drop of blood a mile away? Ooh. Well, Nargacuga's the same, but with audio. Throughout the entire forest, it will home in and pinpoint the sound of something making its way clumsily through the thick vines, snapping them, and it's like, that sounds like it's large enough for a good bit of supper. Honey, I'll be right back. It's a very useful adaptation. It's also a great raw to imagining coming out of other creatures. Able to call any given forest and a few other select locales its kingdom, it is a perfect predator. 20 meters of silent, deadly, living weaponry. And it comes in various flavors. So, there is a subspecies that, well, you might be there thinking, whoa, how can this majestic creature get any better? How can it? It seems perfect, and I know it is. It's lovely, isn't it? That's the reason I love it so much. Well, prepare yourself, because a select group of Nargacugas are... They're green. They turn green. There's some green ones. They're literally just green. They blend more into the forest, and they're a bit more skilled. They can do like an extra jump or two and like a combo of tail slams. They get like a red tip. Mostly they're green. And on my shelf, it's green. It's a green Nargacuga. But there are but two flavors left. That's the subspecies. But let's talk about the rare species. And in case you're wondering, a rare species is still technically a subspecies. But if 500 out of 2,000 Nagas are green, well, 1 out of 2,000 are lucent. Look at it. The Lucent Nargacuga. Absolutely gorgeous. What a pretty animal. Oh, I absolutely adore it. The slight purple hue shimmering along its thickened blade wings. Even while not enraged, the spikes permanently protruding out of its tail, ready to inflict maximum damage. Oh yeah, it's... Lucent Nargacuga is invisible. I bet you didn't see that coming! But yeah, legitimately, it can turn invisible, and is that not just right cracking? So, this one, as, you know, rare species would imply, is bloody rare, but one has been found, almost a myth appearing on dark, foggy nights in secluded locations. They are a treat to encounter. Researchers desperate to get hold of one, the guild keen to understand it. They are much larger than their green and normal brethrens, cresting 25 meters. It is, well, the epitome of stealth. The only thing you know before you are eviscerated is the glow of its eyes will still remain, drifting ghostly in the air, a slight warning that something is not quite right. Now you might be wondering, how does it do this? Well, the dapples on its skin, the little spots of colour, are essentially mirror-like in quality. They reflect the light around it, giving it a sort of predator cloak type look. And look, I'll be honest, it's not the most concrete of explanations. It's more akin and realistic to suggest it's like a cuttlefish, controlling the pigment in its skin to match that of the background, but in an extreme beefed up monstery way that essentially let it perfectly blend as it moves through its environment. Outside of that, it's essentially just a normal Nargacuga, but on steroids. It is able to even produce a toxin within them that can kill a human in moments. It will also put down a Rathalos in not much more time either. A Lucent Nargacuga is only challenged by Elder Dragons, and even then it will give them a proper good run for its money. Even they cannot fight, well, what they cannot see. And the thing is, these guys are very aggressive. They very much don't want anyone near them. They want to live solitary lives, which is why it's such an incredibly momentous occasion when a breeding pair is found, mainly because nobody knows how they fucking found each other, but what we do know is that personality is everything in Lucent Nargacuga dating circles. Finally then, we have the deviant, unique and changed in some way that is not normal for a Nargacuga. This then is the Silverwind, and essentially it looks like a Nargacuga that's getting a bit old, getting a bit on in years. It's got silvery grey hair, lighter grey fur everywhere else, and it's not too special visually. But outside of, again, being a Nargacuga on steroids, even by Lucent Nargacuga's steroids, the power creep is kind of real. TLDR.
Harder, better, faster, stronger.
But what it does have going for it is an incredibly unique mechanic that is oh so much fun to fight against. You know in anime when somebody like swings a sword with such force, the air it generates is like a wind blade, it like eviscerates through a building, like Zorro style. Yeah, it has that going on for it. Every tail swing sends a razor-sharp blade of air that cuts deep into flesh, causing grievous bleeding. Now, ignoring the fact that in order to flick its tail fast enough to create this effect, it would essentially rip itself in half, it's pretty badass. All Nargacuga fights are an elegant dance of death, as you both expertly dodge each other's blows until someone makes that first mistake, but none more so than Silverwind. You have to deal with some serious combos. Its aerial shenanigans is incredible, and then on top of that, blades are flying at you. You can cut off his tail to lower the effectiveness of them, but even then, they remain a new status and the most potent of its species ever to be found. It is one heart-pounding challenge. I love the Silverwind so much. Its tail spikes are also permanently out, making it a lot more intimidating, though Technically, you can only cut off a Nargacuga's tail while its spikes are out, so it's not entirely just a benefit, but it certainly makes it work. So that's the Silverwind, a unique wind pressure wielding 99 points in agility monster that is just So, to how I would place this in Monster Hunter World. Well, the answer is easily. Look at him. He is so down to earth, yet fun and fantastical. He would slot in seamlessly. And I know I've talked about him a few times in the past when he's cropped up, but I see him, evidently becoming a top tier threat in the Ancient Forest, maybe occasionally in a few of the other zones, a lone wanderer, but obviously he'd call the forest home. But I would love to see him arrive with a new mechanic, the Hunter Hunted. Again, this is something I have touched upon, but a TLDR, you are in a hunt, you're in the forest, and a Nargacuga, unless he's the target of course, would unknowingly to you replace one of the existing monsters and start hunting you down, silently, slowly, softly. Did you see a pair of glowing eyes just over there? Was that a bit of movement just outside the border of the current zone? And then if you don't catch him, well, out of nowhere you're gonna get pounced and eviscerated for huge damage and maybe a bleed. And I just think it would be a really good fun time. Really give you that, oh my god, I am the prey right now. Like, imagine how badass that would be. And the thing is, I don't think it's entirely out there. A lot of the new returning monsters are getting like new signature things that they're bringing to the game, like Lunastra's napalmy permanent fire needing a cauldron, like all of that good stuff. And yeah, that's nowhere near as excessive as like, stalking the hunter, but I definitely think if he did arrive, they'd give him that unique twist based on his super stealthy style. But yeah, no question in my mind, he'd be wondrous for the game. And honestly, now that we have Behemoth, new skeletons are getting added, I will be shocked if we don't see a pseudo wyvern at some point. They're just modified flying wyvern skeletons, and I really think Nargacuga is the choice. He is a fan favorite, and by far and away, over all of the others, fits the game completely. Outside of getting Tigrex in a future snow zone, of course, but, then you could double up and reuse the skeleton, which is always a-okay. So there you have it, everybody. That is Nargacuga, my second favorite monster, joint, and as you can tell from all my yapping on about him, yeah, I'm a big fan. I think he's just simply cool, and I have so much fun fighting him. He has a special place in my heart after hundreds and hundreds of hunts. Again, a big thank you to DigDugDack for grabbing some footage that I cannot, so you can actually, see what I'm talking about. He's down below, and yeah, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and share it around if you did have some fun. A lot does go into these. My name has been Josh. Goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.